Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to call the January 11th Board of Zoning Appeals to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, first order, roll call.
Mr. Burnham?
Present.
Mr. Hunley?
Present.
Mr. Jackson?
Here.
Mr. Capora?
Present.
Mr. Ashton?
Present.
Ms. Abernathy? Present. Ms. Hyduk is present.
Good. Who the heck is this TBA?
TBD determined.
That's TBD.
To be announced.
Oh, to be announced.
Okay, first order is appointment of officers. We need a nomination for chairperson.
I nominate Kathy Pora.
I've been nominated. Do we need a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Johnson?
Jackson.
Jackson? It's only a minute into this.
Come on, Ray.
And I wasn't drinking, no. Any other nominations? If not, roll call, please.
Mr. Burnham?
Yes.
Mr. Hunley?
Yes.
Mr. Jackson?
Yes.
Mr. Capora?
Yes, motion carries 4-0. Now I need a nomination for vice chair.
I nominate Eric Byrne.
Nomination by Hunley for Mr. Burnham,
A second?
second by Mr. Jackson.
Mm-hmm.
Any other nominations? Okay, nominations closed. Roll call, please.
Mr. Burnham?
Yes.
Mr. Hunley?
Yes.
Mr. Jackson?
Yes.
Mr. Capora?
Yes, motion carries 4-0. Okay. Old business. Burrek, 14335 Truman Street, developmental variance, continued public hearing. The amended request for November 9th BZA, the development variance is to allow the petitioner to construct an addition onto the house with the front yard setback of 5 feet and the side yard setback of 4 feet and an overall height of 33 feet. Hi.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Good to see you again. I need your name and address, please.
Rob Burink, 14335 Truman Street, Cedar Lake.
And anything new or?
No, I think the last time we met in November, I was gonna be gone until January.
Yep.
And your team was gonna take a field trip and take a look at the site, and I'm kind of understanding that the ball is in your court tonight.
As,
To my knowledge, wasn't he supposed to meet with, the engineer to see what, are we, it's all concerned into, water flow, correct?
He met with Tim and he presented the discussion that him and Tim had had when they met in November. After that November meeting, I did send the updated plan to, the fire chief, the police chief, and the public works superintendent, because all three of them had concerns about it encroaching closer to the front yard setback. The only one I heard back from on the plan was the fire chief, and he was more in favor for the amended plan where it provided that one off-street parking and then had the cars in the garage. I did not get response back from the other two.
okay, wasn't there supposed to be, was there anything resolved about drainage?
He was gonna raise the garage floor up to allow for the water to then not go into the garage, but
Right, that's why we're giving them the additional height in the building.
That's why the height request came
But
back.
wasn't it supposed to be determined if there was something else that had to be done, like a swale or something, or?
There was discussion about seeing if there'd be room for there to be some type of stormwater detention for in the future whenever we do a reconstruction of that area and put in the stormwater services, that whenever we do total reconstructions of road around the town, we put in those stormwater infrastructure lines, fuel sewer lines. So there's talk about that, but Nothing that I've heard further on.
Okay, then my question is, with him raising, I know we went all over this back in November, but, with raising the addition or the garage net, that will take care of the flooding?
That should take care of the flooding into his garage from whenever it rains, yes. According
And that was
to,
our main concern, right?
right,
And that water will still flow between you and the fence line, your property line,
And then out to the lake?
up to the lake, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's a certain amount that will flow through the south side of my house, and then we had discussed the idea of a potential, structure on the north end of that dead-end street that would, of course, at the top end of that, flow out to the lake. Those were all topics of our discussion.
Did the building committee, did they have any comments on this particular thing? That everything was resolved?
there was no additional comments after the plan came up from when Tim went out and met with Mr. Burke.
I know you're limited on parking down there, that was one part. Then you added the parking spot that would go on the south side of the house, correct?
Correct.
And then you have limited space with the addition where the new part of the garage is gonna go out to the road. And then you're gonna pitch the water to go towards I guess it has to go towards that apartment.
Well, it will go back towards the street, which will then
Go
carry
towards that
over
apartment, right?
to the north. Yeah, and that water does evacuate, but we kind of discussed if there was room for a structure of sorts too, and there is.
My problem is, I know we discussed it, but it doesn't sound like anything got finished. You know, like this is the plan and this is what it's gonna be. It sounds like we're gonna go at it at a whim still.
I was of the opinion that everything was in the hands of this committee as of my leaving in November.
Mr. Chairman, we need to correct a little record here about procedures.
Sure.
Burden never shifts to the Board of Zoning Appeals for the petitioner's request. The burden is always the petitioner's and always the responsibility of the petitioner. The dialogue you have, you're certainly entitled to have, and you do, but there's no burden shift here.
No, there's not, but
Burden's on
the
the
burden
gentleman.
was that the town departments were gonna be discussed, correct?
It was,
And it sounds like you have not received the proper feedback from the town.
All right,
It's not the board.
Just a minute, you have more?
No, I just want to make certain we know that petitioner has to bring and carry the entire burden. And your dialogue of finding a solution is, of course, part of the process. It's not a shift.
And it's not.
Well, you've said it twice now that it is, it's in our
Well,
court.
it's
not.
it's in the town's court, so to speak. I brought everything a petitioner could have possibly brought to the November meeting, am I correct? I mean, I was complimented on the amount of information I brought, even renderings. And,
But it wasn't enough for us to vote on it.
no, it wasn't
We
because
deferred it,
it
correct?
was stated that this team was going to go there and do a visual assessment before tonight.
Well, I'm very familiar with the project, but I'm not to make your solution. Your solution should come from you, and you should sell me on the solution that's going to fix the problem for you and your neighbors.
I apologize, but all of that was provided in November extremely clearly.
I understand 100% of what you're proposing to do or what's
Yeah.
done here.
I'm a little befuddled right now, actually.
Yeah, I can tell that. Yeah, and I can understand that too. But my question is, I know, I don't like the word team, but I know that, there was a town engineer, Tim, or somebody was supposed to go out and take another look at it. I want something from somebody saying that this will correct the problem, or it will not create, a worse problem than what's there now. I mean, I need it corrected. And just by our talking here, doesn't give me that,
Everything I presented at the last meeting will correct my problem.
yes,
But
go ahead.
the town that Ashley spoke of to speak with this department, that department, needed to provide her feedback if they were in agreement with what I provided.
Correct, and that's what I'm looking for.
It could be
I
that
can't
the
provide that.
other two departments felt that the safety concern was still there, even with the updated plan. I can't speak to why I didn't get feedback. That was one of the reasons that it was also deferred, is so that updated plan could be sent, because there was significant public safety concerns from Public Works, Police, and Fire Department with his previous plan.
Well, fire chief got back to you and said, yeah, he likes this plan and that, but, I still don't know if that's gonna eliminate the problem. I know he says it will, you know, and what have you, but isn't there supposed to be a report from these people or somebody telling us, being the board, that what he's gonna do is correct, we'll solve the problem?
Tim felt it would solve the problem, our Director of Operations.
It was Tim's idea.
Yeah, well, I need,
Yeah, Tim felt that what he and Mr. Brink went through, that he presented at the November meeting, that's in your packet, would solve the water problem at the property.
and that's from Tim?
That's from Tim.
I thought the 5-foot setback was a concern though, wasn't it, or did they?
That was the public safety concern from all the other individuals.
That still exists?
That's still a request.
But that was from the first time, right? And then the second time you came back, it was still 5 feet, but then you added this parking spot, correct?
Right.
Correct. Tim stated that if I could get one car over there on the side of the house and shave that piece off the garage, because I'm growing it to the north, to equal the current setback of the balance of the house on the north property, then I could extend that garage so that I could get 3 vehicles in my actual house. Which, I mean, in my...
Right, because with the garage, your garage that you have now is not even functional, you can't even put a car in there,
No,
right?
I can't.
Right.
1,500 is sticking out halfway across the street tonight when it's gonna snow. It's better off it's in the house.
Right.
Well, I think as long as Tim approved this, okay, and he's on record here now of being approved, I guess, huh?
You have a record?
Someone.
You have something?
Does Tim have it in writing that he could approve it?
He just verbally told me after their meeting.
I'm fine with the setbacks, and then you added the garage. I mean, you're already limited what you can do down there. My concern is just the runoff of where they plan on bringing all this. If you and Tim came to a design that's gonna work, then I'm gonna go with Tim. I think he has.
I mean, as in my old house I did on the lake, he made a lot of great suggestions, and he said, if you ever think about raising the floor, that'll remove this issue completely.
Yeah, we don't wanna have flooding in
The
your house
water's
at all.
gonna flow where it's supposed to go, and then if in fact the town does wanna do something of curbs and sorts, there's definitely room for a structure, because I'm not encroaching that portion where that would even be in the future if they even did it.
Yeah, how much closer are you going to the road? What was determined, it was originally 13?
Yeah, I think I'm proposing 5 or 6 feet. I apologize, I didn't even have time to run to my office to get a puller. I was in a hospital all day with somebody.
He's proposing for it to move 6 feet closer, which would put him about actually 2 feet off the road, according to the marked survey he has. According to the platted survey he has, it would allow him to be, sorry, my brain's trying to catch up with my math real quick. 8 feet?
Yeah. So you're 8 feet, with the new garages, you're 8 feet from the plot of survey, that's what I'm gonna go off of, that's what your distance from the road to your garage is.
Well, that's from the location report. The state survey shows that he's only 8 feet now.
That's the center of the road though?
No. It looks, on the plot survey, it looks like it's from the,
It's from the property line.
Yeah. Where the road is to where his new garage is supposed to be at.
I believe the actual property line, now I'm going from memory here, because like I said, I did not plan on not being in my house all day today. I drew that one picture that's in your files where I laid that tape measure out, and that line was 8 feet from my house. And if I'm not mistaken, I requested 5 feet, so that would actually make it 3 feet from the property line. And then you guys were gonna take a peek at that, because actually, when you stand on my property line, it goes through every driveway and front yard 4 feet in from the road, if not more. Like the whole road just does kind of a shift because it's so old.
Because right now you have 14 feet, correct, without the garage, correct?
When I did that photo and I laid down that tape measure on the actual property line to the orange cable, it was 8 feet, I believe, on the money.
Yeah, it's a state survey where the survey actually went out and measured it from the state of the property.
And that's the existing?
That's the existing.
That's what the surveyor spray painted, and then I strung that line out.
So in existing, you have 8 feet right now, as it sits?
Yes.
And then you're gonna go from 8 to 5, or 2?
I was requesting initially 2 to grow the house 6 feet.
I don't know of a car that can fit in 8 feet anyways. I mean, regardless of what he has, if you left it the same, he's still gonna have the same problem, and his house part's gonna flood. So I don't know what car measures out 8 feet that he's gonna be able to park there anyways. And he doesn't have that spot to park right now, correct, on the south
Right
side?
now, we back up, no, that doesn't exist, because I'm gonna cut like 3.5, 4 feet off that south side of that garage to make that spot exist.
To make that spot.
Yes.
So he has no parking right now, and his new place is gonna be able to put 2 cars in the garage, plus he'll have another parking
Right.
spot.
Right.
You know, and then the water flow, I mean, I'm gonna go with Tim, if Tim says it's gonna work, then what are we supposed to go off of?
I agree with that.
But what he has now, he can't park either vehicle in the garage,
Right.
and he does not have another spot, so he's parking probably at a diagonal or something on the road / thing. So by letting him have this, I see that he's gonna be able to park the cars in the garage, plus have a third area.
Well,
And he won't have flood anymore.
And it improves the safety on that road.
I have to agree with that.
Yeah, the only time someone would be parked in front of my garage, it would be parallel and it would be a visitor.
Okay, why don't you have a seat for a minute, and I'll call for remonstrations. Are there any remonstrators here for or against this? Any remonstrators for or against? Nobody online?
There are 2 people online. If either of you are wanting to remonstrate for or against this variance, please raise your hand. Neither attendee are raising their hand.
Okay, public session is closed. Okay, building department, you said everything you wanted to say, right?
At this time, yes, sir.
All right, we're down, you can come back up now, sir. Well, we're down to board decision unless there's any more discussion.
I wish we had something in writing from Tim, something formal, but it's all verbal, just saying?
It was a verbal conversation between Tim and I after he had his meeting with Mr. Brewing. I do have it kind of outlined in the staff report a bit, in the second to last paragraph, that prior to the November 2023 BZA meeting, Mr. Brink met with Mr. Kubiak at the property to discuss the water problem in the house plans, and that during this conversation it was discussed raising the house, removing the jet out to the south side of the house, and providing an off-street parking space in addition to the parking in the garage.
Well, I agree with Derek. I mean, Tim looked at it, Tim suggested to, the owner here and what have you, so I'm comfortable with that.
And he's gonna control the job site anyway, because I haven't fully sent in my plans that would be reviewed for our upgrading, so they'll have another look at it.
The inspectors will have
Before
another
an
look
issued
at it.
permit.
So then all he needs is just what, variance, that's all he needs to do is the setback. That's the only thing we have to rule on.
Setback and height,
And then,
yeah. But we need, approval on, petitioner to, construct an addition onto the house with the front yard setback of 5 feet, a side yard setback of 4 feet, and an overall height of 33 feet. So, board decision on that,
do you want to ask for a motion?
yes,
I'll make a motion to request the variance
to approve the variance.
to the findings of the facts. Did I state that correct? All right.
Which one?
Is it-
He amended the request after he filed it, so Eric.
So you want that whole thing? Allowing petitioner
Thank
to
you.
construct an addition onto the house with a front setback of 5 feet and a side yard setback of 4 feet and an overall height of 33 feet.
That's what the motion should be.
It's a good motion.
Right. Okay,
May I ask Ashley a question?
sure.
On that setback, now, we were just talking about that 8-foot mark
They approved it for 5 feet, so it's gonna have to be 5 feet from the road.
from the road, is that
That's
then?
your red property line.
Okay,
Or, that's what the motion is.
yeah,
So you have to determine, I mean, it looks like you're gonna have to determine off of this one. The state one, plat survey?
Yeah, the
Is that what,
state,
is that what I'm looking at?
the
Yeah.
state plot survey, yeah.
Yes.
is that the one where I took the photos where it was 8 feet from?
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so that's only allowing me 3 feet to grow the home. And that, because that was all submitted before the survey was even painted on the ground.
yeah. The original survey was submitted prior to, when, for the storm board, you were required to get an actual plat survey. That was it.
Yeah. Can it be a 2-foot setback so I can grow the house 5 feet?
Well, what you're asking us for is what we granted. If you just want to cancel that and restate it, then you'll have to go back and do it again. We granted what was on the variance that you asked.
Yeah, and that was before the survey was actually set in stone on that street.
Your amended request was before,
Yeah, the amended request was not about the street side. I thought it was about the elevation in the rear of the home.
yes, that's what the motion was made to approve, was for the setbacks in the elevation.
Yeah, the setback on both sides.
Right, in the elevation.
You got a front
That's all
yard
you
of
were
5 feet
asking for here.
and the side yard of 4 feet.
That's all that's being asked for here in your amended, am I correct?
Mhm. And that comes from the original request, which was to construct the addition onto the house, the existing house with an overall height of no greater than 36, front yard setback to be reduced to 5 feet, side yard setback along the north side of the property line to be 4 feet, consistent with the existing structure, and for that overall lot coverage of 46%. The lot coverage came off because we found out that they only calculated for the frontage lots, but not the rest of the property going to the lake, so they don't need the lot coverage anymore.
Right.
And so that, with the raising of the house, that's where the height came back in at. The two setback requests have
Well,
been.
again, that's something you'll have to figure, I mean, we can stop but it's what's already stated there is going off what we're looking at.
Yeah,
So if you have to change something, then you probably don't want us to go and vote on it.
no,
And you're gonna have to get into your office and we'll figure that out. But you already, what I gave you, when we gave you your variance to what was asked. But we're going off what I'm looking at.
yeah, and that measurement was before we actually knew where that property line was. So I assumed that we were asking to add on 5 feet to that house, to the street side, leaving a 2-foot or a 3-foot setback.
That would have been a whole new advertisement. because that would have been even more, an even greater request. Correct me if I'm wrong in my phrasing there, Mr. Austin. That would be an even greater request than what your current request already is, which is for the 5 feet. Because you'd want an extra 3 feet closer to the road.
Can you pull up that photo with the dimension where that, line was for me, please? I'm sorry.
Mr. Chairman, is there a motion pending?
There,
Yes, I have a motion on.
Okay, there wasn't a vote taken yet.
No, I haven't had a second yet.
this is what they're looking at.
Yeah, do you have the PDF that I had?
This is your survey location report that does not have the accurate.
So there, according to this dimension here, I'm wanting to add on to the front of that house 6 feet. And that's what that came out to.
Was for a 5-foot front yard setback, correct. But if your actual platter survey says that you have 8 feet and they're granting 5 feet, you have to stick to that 5 foot.
Which is only giving me 3 feet. Do you have the PDF that I sent in where I took those pictures and dimensions?
Not in this packet.
Yeah, it's because when this was all done, the survey hadn't been conducted.
Well, we can ask Mr. Burnham to,
I can
remove
take
his
it away.
motion from the table, and you can ask for a deferral and come back with all the corrected information and what you actually want, so that we can see it, because there's a lot of confusion here.
Yeah, there is.
So-
said he's going to have to re-advertise.
If he wants it to be,
That's something we'd have to take up with Ashley there, but right now, I don't see how we can go forward, because he doesn't agree with what we're talking about, or what we wanna make a motion on.
Well, my original petition was to add 6 feet onto the front of that home.
but your addition isn't what the advertisement was for. Your advertisement was for the reduction in front yard setback, and which is what our ordinance
Yeah.
calls for, is that
Which
30 feet.
Which was based on a piece of paper that you show there, but then when they came and struck the actual survey on the ground, it didn't represent what was on the paper. It was a lot closer to the house. That's why this all happened. I
As it
don't
stands,
want to say that it was my mistake. Because I was always originally thinking that we were going to add that 6 feet. I mean, what's the point of me adding a 3-foot addition for X $1,000? I still won't be able to get a car in there. I need
Mr.
6
Austin,
feet.
can I, ask you to shed some light on this one, please?
This needs to be re-advertised if the greater part is being sought.
So I will retract my motion, which I am retracting my motion.
Okay.
And then we'll have to, you'll ask to be deferred to next month,
No, I'll be gone the whole month.
all right? Well, then when you have a chance to figure out and have us go off that and then retract what you want,
Well, I would suppose that if I have to go back and rewrite the whole request, I wouldn't even really defer, I have to resubmit. Right?
Probably make it cleaner.
It would absolutely make it cleaner, and then you would have.
so this one will go, so this one you'll remove from,
Well, he would have to ask to withdraw this petition
and then restart over.
and then start over.
Yeah, I don't know how this could have been, yeah. Because the paper didn't match what the guy came and marked.
So you're gonna request to withdraw this petition?
I don't really have a choice.
Pardon?
I don't have a choice, I can't add 3 feet to the house, it would be a waste of my time, so yeah.
Okay. Do we need a motion or anything on that, or?
No, he's made the request.
Okay, petitioner requested to withdraw, his petition on this, piece of property. Sufficient?
It'll be removed from the agenda till there's a new filing.
Okay,
All right.
okay, thank you. Okay. Number 2, Casa Bush LLC, developmental variance, 8602 West 131st Avenue. Owner petitioner, Casa Bush LLC, 7310 Grand Avenue, Hammond, Indiana. That zip can't be right, 46303. Vicinity of 8602 West 131st Avenue, Cedar Lake, Indiana, 46303. This developmental variance is to allow the petitioner to install a 20-foot by 20-foot garage to be located approximately 2.5 feet from the east property line, 1 foot from the rear property line, and 2.5 feet from the deck and 7.5 feet from the existing house on a legacy lot. Name and address, please?
Yes, Michael Maciel, 7130 Grand Avenue, Hammond, Indiana.
Okay. Anything new or
Nothing new,
nothing new?
pretty much it, yeah.
Okay, discussion. Well, let me see. Why don't you have a seat for a minute, I'll call for the administrators. Are there any administrators for this item? Any administrators for or against? Online?
Again, if either participant online is wanting to speak for or against this petition, please raise your hand. I think
No?
one of the ladies is trying to talk.
Okay. Can't hear you.
Hello.
Hello?
Hi, my name is Deborah Nelson, and I was actually, had submitted my issue in regards to the, how close the request is to a neighboring home with that property line. Because the neighboring house is probably about 3 foot. It's oversized for that request.
What's oversized, the garage?
Yes.
Based
It's a 30-foot wide garage, and the neighbor's house is approximately 4 foot off that property line. So that'd be approximately 6 foot between that garage and the neighboring home. You know, it's kind of a little close in there for that to be 2 foot off the property line
Deborah,
on that east side.
can you give your first and last name and address for the record, please?
Deborah Nelson, 8605 West 131st Avenue, West 131st Avenue here in Cedar Lake.
Thank you.
You're across the street from him?
Yes, sir. I'm across the street. I've watched, you know, it's a great job. The house looks beautiful. But that side lot, the driveway lot, it's just, the house to the east, on that east property line, that's right there. There's no space in there, you know, for 20 foot.
Okay.
It was my concern. That was my concern. It was just how the size and with the variances, the requests and everything. That was my issue.
Okay, thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any other remonstrators? Seeing none, public comment is closed. You may come up now, you can respond to that, sir.
Okay. So currently there is a shed on the property, and the shed is actually closer to the property, to the adjacent property to the east than the garage would be.
Yeah, you can get rid of that shed.
Correct.
It's green or something?
It's actually right up against the edge of the
Yeah.
property line,
Yeah,
so we would be gaining more space.
from the back.
From the side as well because of the variance now. Because the way the current shed is in place, the back northeast corner is right up against the property line.
Well, the shed's gonna be gone anyway.
Correct.
All right, so we're not worried about that. When you place this garage to the house that's towards the lake, what direction is that?
East,
East, towards the lake, is east there?
Yeah.
Okay. How far off the property line is your neighbor?
2.
Right. How,
2 feet.
2 feet?
Yeah. and
He's
gonna-
2 feet,
Yeah,
and you want to be,
2 feet, right?
Do you wanna have, is there a request?
we actually gained a little bit, yeah.
It has no,
so it's gonna be 4.5 feet
Yeah.
between the garage and the house.
And no, it's not a house, it's a fence.
Correct.
It's
It's a
not-
fence in the back, correct. And
Yeah,
it's
it's a
also, the home itself, the reason why I'm trying to make that for a 20-foot garage there for 2 vehicles, because it's a 5-bedroom home, 4-bath home, so.
So you don't want this house and you're flipping it.
Correct.
So, and it has no existing garage.
No
as
existing
it is.
garage,
It
correct.
has a shed that ain't gonna fit anything.
Correct.
And you're gonna need a 2-car garage to sell it.
Yes.
Are you losing some of the deck too?
No.
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 Well, how far from the fence is the other house?
Well, the neighbor, they're just as close as where their fence is. They run right, it's just flat with it.
Right next to the fence? So that's not leaving any room for safety or what have you. So actually, if there's no, if this variance isn't granted, there really is no difficulty here or hardship for you. You just want to put it up so you can sell the property.
Well, I mean, for whoever the new owner would be, it makes sense to have a garage, because like I said, it's only a driveway, it's a 5-bedroom home. So, and there's no really encumbrances in, the neighbors. I'm not intruding, you know what I mean?
Yeah, but
It's actually gaining.
but what I'm saying is, I need to have some sort of difficulty or hardship involved in here for you, and you're not.
The hardship would be, it's access. I mean, I wouldn't be able to, you know what I mean? It just has a driveway, it doesn't have anything covered for anybody.
Granted, I took right past.
Is that wood porch, is that covered?
The rear
Yes,
porch?
yes.
No, it is not covered.
It's wide open, so
Correct.
that deck goes towards your supposed new garage, correct?
Correct.
So what the distance between where the existing house and where this new garage is 7.5 feet?
It would be 7.5, correct.
What does that make the coverage with the garage, Ashley?
I would assume that would have been part of it, you would have looked into that, because that would have been,
I would.
that would have been in play,
This
right?
lot is one of our legacy lots, so it
Right.
has a different lot coverage, and it was under the 50% allowable on that lot.
What's the square footage of that 5-bedroom house?
Just under 2,800 square foot.
2,800?
Oh, you're only gonna have, with the existing wood porch, you're only gonna have 2.5 feet in between the garage, in between that wood deck or porch and the new garage,
Correct, it'll be enough for a walkway through there.
27% lot coverage.
which is a 30-inch walk.
And that area is allowed, because it's the legacy lot, it's allowed 50.
So the coverage is okay.
Yeah.
Well, here again, 2.5 feet between the house or that wood porch. Is that, what level is it on, the first or second?
Second, it's a stairway coming down.
So
Going
that
back to the
leaves,
south end.
that leaves a very small alleyway.
Yeah, 29 inches.
Just looking at safety on both sides with the sides of the garage. And here again, I don't see a hardship created there. Just to be able to sell the house, make it more appealing to somebody. Building department have anything to say about it?
We looked at it for a little bit. Initially, there had been talk about, because of the legacy lot overlay, would it actually require the variance? Because in the legacy lot overlay, we allow for, if you have a non-conforming structure, you can remove it and rebuild it in the same location as long as both permits are pulled concurrently and you don't increase the non-conformity. We determined that it was increasing the non-conformity because it wasn't a like-for-like structure. So if you did a 10 by 12 shed in the same exact location as a 10 by 12 shed, you wouldn't even need to be here for a variance. But because he's taking it from a 10 by 12 shed that's closer to the property line to a, part of it's closer to the property line due to how it's angled, to a 20 by 20 garage, it's increasing the non-conforming and requires the variance. Otherwise, we didn't have much by way of comment or concern from the building department.
Would the building department be happy with a 20 by 20 garage there?
We didn't discuss that.
Pardon?
We didn't discuss it.
Well, so on the west side of the house, how far are you from the property line? It doesn't give me a measurement.
The west side of the home.
The west side of the house, so get away from the neighbor.
Mhm.
If something happened and you had to get in the back of your yard, how much distance do you have on the west of this house, from the property line to the house that's already there? How many feet do you think that is?
From the property, I couldn't tell you, to be honest with you, I'm not sure. I mean, I know there's a good gap between the property from the neighbors.
So I think it's
line.
coming out to about 9 feet.
28, you got 28
Because you got 30 on the
feet
front of the
plus-
house, from that corner to the other corner, and the house is 20 foot 6 inches, is that right?
Yeah,
So you have about 9 feet to get in your back, on your side yard to get back to your house, plus whatever's your neighbor,
About
so,
9 1/4.
what's that?
9 1/4.
Right, so-
Roughly.
On the west side, you're saying, correct?
Yes,
Okay.
because you have the way of getting back to your house.
Right.
And if you have something that goes wrong in your back of your house, how are you gonna get somebody back there?
Yeah.
9 feet would be, not gonna get a truck, but,
Right.
but you get to it.
any comments, Ray, Jim?
I don't have a problem, I think emergency-wise, you can get back, I mean, where that lot is and what we have to put at, I understand it is, but you're going back to it, is having that garage,
I don't see a hardship, that's the.
there is no hardship. There is no, but the safety thing, that I feel, that you can get back to the backyard, just as good as anything else. But the hardship isn't there. But he technically is not gonna be, he's not living there. But if you own the house and you
Right.
came in front and said, my wife and I have 2 cars, we have this 5-bedroom house, and I would like to put my cars away and store my stuff, would that be a definition of hardship?
Be closer, but.
No, No, because it's not a difficulty or something for them, it's a convenience. Putting your car in the garage, keep it out of the weather is a convenience, it's not a hardship or.
Cleaning up the community, not having cars sitting out in the garage, having a place to store stuff, I mean, that's all, I think that, Eric Burnham would think that is a hardship. But I'm one out of the group.
Well, it's just,
But you're right,
you guys need to discuss it and then,
but that would be my definition, that's what I'm
This
trying
is
to
just
say.
add value to the resale is what I'm getting out of the garage, right?
Well, I mean, it's honestly for convenience as well, like you say, I mean, it's more convenience because, like you said, as a homeowner, as a family man myself, I think it's burdensome to have a home that big and not have a place to put a garage and put other stuff as well.
Yeah.
There's no storage space really in that home. The lot's kind of small as it is, you know, and the driveway is narrow as it is too, so I would think it's a hardship, in my opinion. That's the way I would look at it.
Most of those lots in that subdivision are close to each other anyway, aren't they?
oh, that's all jammed in back there.
Yeah,
It's really
I mean,
tight.
that is what, there's
Yeah.
no way of getting around that. But having an access for emergency, big deal.
Yeah.
You know, they have to have a way to get to the backyard. I
Mhm.
mean, that's,
That's a one-way street, the street's so narrow, it's a one-way street going east and then around the block to come out. I think it's Polk.
Yeah.
cause it looks like the house to the west of him, they're 2 feet from their property line. Their existing house. It's running right along the side of that fence line.
Well, if you guys had enough discussion, then it's decision time.
I'm good.
Then I need a motion on this matter.
I'll make a motion to approve the variance to allow the petitioner to install a 20 by 20 garage to be located approximately 2.5 feet from the east property line, 1 foot from the rear yard property line, 2.5 feet from the deck, and 7.5 feet from the existing house on a legacy lot.
Per finding of facts.
To find the facts.
Motion made by Mr. Burnham. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Mr. Hunley. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Burnham?
Yes.
Mr. Hunley?
Yes.
Mr. Jackson?
No.
Mr. Capuro?
No.
There is
Motion
no-
fails.
there's no action.
Thank you.
All right, good evening, fellas.
New business, number one, 5 Point Builders, developmental variance, 12819 Klein Avenue. Says requesting a developmental variance from Town of Cedar Lake, County, Indiana, ordinance number, chapter 6.2, section C, minimum lot area width. Developmental variance is to allow the petitioner to petitioner a reduction in building setback line on a lot 2 from 80 feet to 68.5 feet. Legals in order?
Legals are in order.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, we would request that this matter be withdrawn. My understanding is at the Plan Commission level, there's concerns that have been raised. I'm not sure that I've received notice of them yet. I know my client is working on what those concerns are, so until that's resolved, we'll request that it be withdrawn. We'll refile at that time.
Okay. Petitioner has requested to withdraw this request, and so granted. Number 2, Porter, variance of use and developmental variance. Owner Lindsay Porter, 6428 West 141st Avenue, Cedar Lake, Indiana. Petitioner Nathan Viss, Viss Law LLC, 12632 Wicker Avenue, Cedar Lake. Vicinity of 6425 West 141st Avenue, Cedar Lake. This variance of use to allow the petitioner to maintain chickens, ducks, and pigs on a R2 zoning district and a parcel of land approximately 6.18 acres. He has two requesters, so we'll do this one first.
Correct. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, Attorney Nathan Vitz here on behalf of my client Lindsay Porter, who is here this evening.
Excuse me, are legals in order?
Legal's in order.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, no, good question. I confirmed that with Ashley a couple of days ago. So I'm really excited for this petition that's before you here this evening. It's kind of near and dear to my heart. I grew up on a small 5-acre farm in Sheboygan Falls, Wisconsin, with cows and with chickens. So when Ashley came to me, or when Lindsay came to me with this, we sat down with Ashley both to talk about the structure of the proposed building as well as what the existing zoning code allows. And in essence, what we have here at this particular property, I believe one of our councilmen's brother used to own this property, a little bit larger at that point in time, right, Mr. Carnahan?
141st?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. So we've got
They
about...
have an A-frame and it used to be 10 acres.
Correct, so it used to be 10 acres, it's been carved out over time. The house has been recently torn down, and my clients are looking to make significant improvements to this particular property. Just by way of background, my clients have 2 young children. One of them has a health allergy, food allergy, and what they've discovered over the course of time that raising their own food, growing food from their own garden, as well as eggs, as well as meat from the animals that they raise is better for their family. So in looking for property, they stumbled across this property, as they indicated, in significant disrepair. They're in the process of cleaning it up, and they would like the ability to raise a few chickens, ducks, and pigs on this particular property. And I've already submitted an application that outlines, and I think the facts that meet the use variance, and that's been submitted to you for your review. So I've submitted a packet here, if I can take us all through that, just page by page, so we get a sense of what this property looks like, as well as the applicable code. So if we turn our attention to the first page, basically the 3 pictures there, the first 2 are just depictions of the heavily wooded area, as well as the proposed driveway area that leads to this property. And then if you were to flip across the street, kind of the rural nature of what it looks like across the street. So that just gives us a sense of what the surrounding area looks like. If we turn to page 2 at the very top, that's just a view of the property as well from, I believe that's the west looking east. Again, indicates the agricultural rural nature of this particular 6.18 acres. And then there's an overview of the property. That red dot is kind of right in the center of the property. There's a subdivision to the very south and homes scattered throughout the exterior of the property. Turn our attention to the next page, page 3, where you see the center of all those lines is in essence where the proposed home would be located, and that if my clients are able to have animals on the property, those animals would be housed further to the south. But you can see just from where the proposed house would be located, and you drop it down about 100 or so feet, where the animals would be proposed to be located would be approximately 400 feet, over 500 feet, over 200 feet, over 250 feet from any nearby residential home. That's really important for the next page, as I'll explain in a minute. Before we turn to our existing code, just want to turn your attention to recent UDO change of the zoning code for Lake County, which I think is really applicable here and gives us a sense as to where the zoning code is kind of changing nationwide when it comes to some of these backyard farmers. That is really the trend here in America as well as locally. And this was a code that was passed at the county level this past September 28th. And what the county allows on properties for chickens and domestic fowl is a maximum of 1 bird unit per acre of lot area. Well, what's a bird unit? And what they allow for is 32 chickens per acre or 16 ducks per acre, and they may be kept in the rear yard. So I just bring that up for a sense of what other communities are allowing, what the county is allowing. Just wanted to raise that in the light of what my client is requesting here this evening. So if we were located within Lake County, you've got 6 acres, my client would be allowed at that point 180 chickens, or 6 times 16, I don't do math very well, perhaps Mr. Burnham could do it in his head, but that's what they would be allowed, but that's not what we're asking for.
106,
Way to go,
something
John.
like that.
Mr. Capura, you got
I think
it.
that's wrong, it's 96.
Okay.
It's a bunch.
Right, it's a lot, it's a lot, we're not asking for that. If you turn to page 5 then, and I raise this because the definition of a hobby farm at the county level is a little different than what we've got. Again, this is a more up-to-date version that I think fits with where zoning is going here in America, and perhaps we could move towards here within Cedar Lake. But a hobby farm at the county level is defined of at least 2.5 acres, or if you're in a platted subdivision, has to be 4.5 acres. And if you have at least 2.5 acres and are zoned for a hobby farm, you can have 2 pigs, or swine they call them, per acre, so that would be allowed up to 6 pigs for, say, 3 acres. You'd be allowed 48 chickens per acre, or 24 ducks per acre. And that just gives us a sense as to what the county, if we were located in the county, what the allotment is there. Then turn our attention to the agricultural zoning here in Cedar Lake. And unfortunately, we would have gone for a rezone, but you need at least 8 contiguous acres if you are going to be rezoned for a hobby farm or agricultural zoning here in Cedar Lake. We're about 1.9 acres short. Wish we would have the full 10 acres that it used to be several years ago, but that's been permitted off. But just by way of example, if we did have 8 acres pursuant to the code, we'd be allowed a wide variety of vehicles, but we're 2 acres short. So with all that being said, what my client is looking for this evening is a use variance on this particular property to be allowed to maintain up to 20 chickens and ducks for their eggs, and up to 6 pigs. And one of those pigs, I would also note, is not a traditional pig, it's a potbelly pig. It's their daughter's pet. So it's an animal that's domesticated, it's allowed to go in the house, goes out of the house, a very clean animal, and the pigs would be kept for slaughter and slaughtered off-site. And looking at the property, my clients are able to maintain them at least 250 feet away from any adjacent areas, and allowing them to maintain them on the property will allow them to maintain their rural self-sustence lifestyle that I spoke about previously. It is interesting, just a little bit, not to bore you with details, but I did have my law clerk and I look at a little bit of the history of zoning restrictions for chickens and animals in municipalities, and what's fascinating is a lot of these restrictions don't start taking place until the 1910s, 1920s, when you get more and more vehicles on the road. So the start of these restrictions was to prohibit these animals in town so that folks would run them over with vehicles. Also fascinating that since COVID, there's been approximately a 700% increase in the amount of chickens. And I forget the exact number, but more and more municipalities are opening up, kind of like what we saw with the Lake County zoning, to allow some small backyard farming. And I think that's reflective of more of the self-sustaining lifestyle that we're re-encouraging here in America, and I think it's appropriate to encourage here locally.
That's it?
That's it. I'll entertain any questions.
Oh, I bet you got a lot of them.
Across the street and just a little bit east, was there a present slaughterhouse or a deer rendering place or a farm?
That is correct. I believe right across the street, actually, so if you look at page 3, in the upper right-hand corner, I believe it's the gray home there, don't quote me, but I believe that's the one that was doing deer rendering and chopping on site, correct? Yep.
Now, do they plan on selling eggs and coops or stuff out of the house?
Oh, from what I understand, this is for the family. Yep, family and friends.
16 chickens is a lot of eggs for a family.
Well, it all depends, actually, Mr. Huntley, which chickens you get. So some are 3 to 5 a week, some are 6 to 7 a week, and some can just be 2 to 5 per week. It all depends upon the variance that you get.
So 16 chickens, 2 eggs a week, is 32 eggs.
Sure. I could ask my client, but, and I don't think there's a restriction on just local selling a couple eggs, but, yeah, and that may be.
All right, will you take a seat a minute?
Sure.
Mr. Viss, and I'll call for remonstrators.
Yep.
Do we have any remonstrators for or against this petition? Come forward, give us your name and address, please.
Nick Schenkel, I own the property at 6506 141st. It's property, the house is burned down, I'm all for it. I vote yes.
Okay, thank you. Any other, remonstrators for or against? Anybody online, Ashley?
The other attendant doesn't appear that she has raising her hand at this time, but we did receive written correspondence.
Okay,
The letter is from Nick and Amy Burcham. The letter states, this letter is to formally object to parcels 1, parcel 2, and parcel 3 that allows the petitioner to maintain ducks, chickens, and pigs in a parcel of land approximately 6.18 acres, as well as the construction of a building not permitted in this residential zoning district. We are concerned about the noise from the chickens and ducks. Secondly, poultry feces stinks. Poultry is prone to predators. We do not want foxes and coyotes to roam our neighborhoods with the high volume of domesticated canine companions. We are also concerned about the smell from the pigs, especially in the summer during the heat. In the last year, the state of Indiana has had avian influenza concerns per the Indiana Department of Natural Resources, DNR. As of April 2023, avian influenza was still present in the state. Per the Indiana DNR, avian influenza affects wild and domestic bird species, primarily waterfowl, raptors, and domestic poultry. Wild turkeys can also be affected by avian influenza. Highly pathogenic avian influenza, HPAI, can quickly disseminate an entire flock of poultry. Raptors can become infected while eating infected prey or by coming in contact with surfaces that are contaminated with the virus. Some subtypes of AI can affect mammals such as pigs, cats, horses, dogs, and bears, as well as humans. In 2022, cases of AI infection in red foxes were detected in the United States for the first time in Wisconsin, Michigan, Iowa, and Minnesota. Wild land birds, such as birds that use backyard feeders, can carry the virus without becoming sick. They include a link on where they got that information. The construction of the metal, that portion is part of the developmental variance. Do you want me to continue reading or get back to that for the developmental variance portion?
okay.
Does that complete the letter?
No, the last two paragraphs concentrate on the developmental variance portion.
There's a second
Yes,
request on this,
yes,
so the rest of the letter refers to the second request,
yes.
what he wants to build. Okay. Any other remonstrators for or against? Seeing none, public is closed.
Where is that monastery, where is she located versus this house that wants to be built? Do you have any, can you show me or no?
Yeah, give me a second.
Is she in that subdivision behind it or something?
Quite a few houses across the street from it.
I believe that needs to be read into the record as well, so do we have that information?
What's that?
The address of any...
They're located at 6614 West 142nd Place in Cedar Lake. They're to the south of them in Deerview.
I think currently there is a pig farm about a mile east of there.
Yes.
But is it in the town limits?
I don't know what's up Beaver Road there.
And just because there's something a mile east doesn't mean they can have another pig farm a mile west of where it is. So, I don't see the residential area, 6 acres, all that acreage isn't usable. Looks like there's a big pond there. Is there a big pond in there?
Yes, I believe, Mr. Chairman, that's a marshy area, depending upon the type of year. There can be some water sitting in it, there can be some water not sitting in it, all depends as to the...
Yeah, it looked like there was water when I was
It's
there.
indicated as a wetland.
Wetland, okay. And then, there's a picture in our packet that I received of a fenced-in area with pigs in it. Is that on that property now?
I believe, yes. I believe there are a couple of the pigs that are located on there now. My clients had to sell a property to quickly buy another one, so they're about to slaughter them in a couple of weeks, and then they'll be removed from the property at that time.
Looked like there were about 4 of them there on that picture.
That could be accurate, yeah, yes.
Yeah. And no chickens though, or anything there now?
Not that I'm aware of. The chickens are there now, they're being housed there right now. Yep.
Yeah, see, so that, they just went ahead without a variance and started raising a farm. And it's residential R2, I think, the residents around there, and I know if I lived close by, I certainly wouldn't want to hear roosters crowing and chickens cackling or whatever they do, and, pigs, they do get kind of, smelly along with the chickens. And then ducks can be bothersome. I'm not for animals on this piece of property at all.
I think respectfully, Mr. Chairman, for folks who have chickens, have been around chickens, and that's why, for example, the county requirement prohibits roosters because of that. But generally speaking, chickens, if you're more than 100 feet away from them, you're not hearing them cluck or anything of that nature. They're actually a very clean animal, and I think that's why when you take a look at what the county code has, there's a reason why they have a limit based upon the amount of refuse, so to speak, that they can produce. As far as the concerns that were raised with one of the remonstrators, I think the facts speak for themselves as to the significant growth that we see here in America with folks producing backyard farms. I candidly think it's something that we should be promoting here in America. We lose that sense of touch with food, number one. Number two is we're increasing reliance. I think number three is returning a bit to how we used to produce food is very encouraging. And I think if we do so in a prudent manner, by limiting the amount that can be on a property, you can allow these folks to coexist peacefully with others in a manner that doesn't negatively affect them.
I agree with you. I think that's good for America, but in the proper place.
Well, and I think, Mr. Chairman.
And this is a resort town, remember, resort town. You show me a resort town that has pigs running down the street, or chickens flying around, or ducks, or what have you. It's a resort town, we're trying to keep it a resort town, and therefore, if they want to have a farm, they should have bought property. Excuse me, I won't go that way. There's other pieces of property out there that do not come under the restriction of the town's ordinances where they can raise animals. But right now, this being a resort town, a residential area, my feelings, of course, there's three other members here, are no animals.
Sure. No, and I can respect that. I think one of the prudent uses of zoning is to say, how do we peacefully coexist a variety? Because candidly, if you are a mile or two away from the lake, you don't have that resort feel, so to speak. And that's what this is. This is a 6-acre piece that's heavily wooded, it's heavily secluded from others. And I think I have a concern with saying that you should have bought something in a different area. I mean, candidly, if you look at the way prices are nowadays, if you wanted to build out in county, so to speak, you would have to find a development. In order to do this, that would be 4.5 acres, and you'd be looking at probably triple the cost of what you have here. And if you're going to try to buy out of a farmer field, there's very few farmers that are going to sell you 2.5 acres, and candidly, you wouldn't even be able to build on 2.5 acres because the county's going to require you to have at least 10 in order to have a septic field on it. So what we're quickly getting to here in America is a cost prohibition for folks to be able to actually have this type of lifestyle. Here we've got a great parcel that allows for it, secluded from neighbors. And again, I come back to the statistics here in America and the municipalities that are enabling their code to allow for this. It shows that you can A, have these animals, B, with all of the developments in medicine and the way that these animals get all their shots, so to speak, before they come to a farm, it really restricts. And when we talk about the avian bird flu, what we're talking about is congested animals in a congregated place. I mean, I've got families that raise thousands of chickens in British Columbia and leave the eggs producing folks out there, right? And that's where you really get into the diseases. But when you're in open air, so to speak, loose pens are covered, the possibility for disease is very, very, very de minimis from what I understand.
One thing that this board does not take into consideration is financial costs or finances when they come in requesting a variance. And so whether they could have bought something 3 times more expensive or not, it doesn't come into play here.
No, and I wasn't saying that for my clients, it was more a general comment, Mr. Capurro. No, I understand that comment.
Sure, but I have to make that
Sure.
clear, because
Yep.
you're on record as saying that, and we don't take finances into consideration here when we make our decision. Now, you show me the hardship here, or the difficulty here involved with not granting animals on this property,
Sure.
other than what the town ordinances allow.
Yeah, and as I articulated in my submission, what you have here is a changing, emerging kind of return to our roots lifestyle here in America, as well as locally in Cedar Lake. And we have a great piece of property that can be utilized for this purpose. It's certainly large enough to allow for this. My clients have a desire to be self-sustaining, and the existing code restrictions would prohibit them from doing it. I think candidly, it's unfortunate as well, the existing code would say you could have a large garden, but if you have some surplus, you couldn't send your child down the street with a wagon and try to sell a few carrots door to door. And that's why I think we have to be realistic with the code here. There's a significant limitation in allowing people to live what I think is a very positive lifestyle that we should be endorsing. That's where I see the hardship.
Is this, what they really want is 32 chickens and 16 ducks?
No, so a maximum of 20 chickens and ducks collectively.
But the pigs are in still,
Pardon?
the pigs are still gonna be there, 2 pigs?
So a total of up to 6 pigs. And I should also note that the pigs are only raised when it comes to between really August through April, the cold months. Not very prudent to raise them in hot summer months, so.
So what was the total of chickens and ducks again?
The total, up to 20
Up to
is what my
20
client's
total.
requesting. Correct. Yes.
So 26 animals total.
I'd be more receptive if it wasn't for the pigs.
Ray, got any comments?
No.
Eric?
Yeah, I see where she's coming from, like, didn't you, can we ask the homeowner to come up, or does Nathan you have to represent? You have to state your name and your address, please.
Lindsay Porter, 6425 West 141st Avenue in Cedar Lake.
And you said that you had a child?
Yeah.
Two that you're you have to get food for them?
So my daughter has a medical condition that when she eats specific foods, it causes her immune system to react like she has a virus. So she spikes a fever, she vomits, she has diarrhea. So to raise these animals, I know for a fact what they're eating, and I know that they're not eating things that she cannot have, so it's not going to make her sick.
So by having these animals on this property, you can provide your daughter to have food to eat.
Correct. And know
That won't
she's
get her
not gonna
sick.
get hurt, yes.
And then you have 10 acres minus this lake or whatever, pond or whatever's on there?
6.
There's 6 total. It used to be 10 acres years ago, but it's been carved out, so now it's down to like 6.1 acres.
My brother was a Cedar Lake cop that owned it at one time.
And it was 10 at that time?
Yeah,
Well,
and there's wood rattlers back in that swamp, rattlesnakes. They brought in one to us at a town council, and the one snake had 18 babies. And we gave it to the Lake County Fair that year.
yeah.
Swine are good for those sorts of erasing those animals.
That's true.
So you have one pet pig, potbelly,
Yeah.
and you're gonna have 5 other pigs. So up to 5 other pigs.
Essentially 4 is, if we raise 4 in the winter, it gets us through the whole year, so, 5 would probably.
You would eat 4 pigs through the course of the year?
I cook breakfast, lunch, and dinner every single
I-
day,
I
we don't
just-
go out to eat.
Yeah,
so-
that's
Yeah.
what you would need, is
Yeah.
4 pigs.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. And we don't raise them in the summer because they are very stinky and I don't want to smell them. So if you raise them in the winter, they don't smell and you don't have to worry about all of that.
What I suggest, Mr. Chairman, with some of the items that my client is indicating, more than amenable to drafting a use commitment that would limit them, so to speak, both A, distance from their enclosure to any nearby adjacent residential homes, similar to what we find with the county requirements. I think that's a good model to go after. You got a limitation, so to speak, as to the months of raising them. She's indicated during the summer months, late spring, early fall, there's no need to have them on site when it comes to the pigs. So I think those are great limitations that she would agree to.
Do you slaughter them on the property?
No, sir.
You don't slaughter them, but somebody else does
I
that?
would consider the chickens, but not the pigs, they're too
Right.
big.
Okay.
How are you gonna have them contained?
They are in a fenced-in area with, it's called hog panel. It's just the panels they have, we made a little, I don't know, house, if you will. And it holds the straw so they stay warm. Pigs' bodies adapt to temperature as it changes, so they don't need a completely enclosed barn or anything like that. They just need a shelter to stay out of the wind.
They've got pellets in the back of their enclosure with the roof over them, so they have like little stalls back there.
Yep.
And then the fencing going around is a square wire fencing posted, going out and see where the gate was, but that's there. And where's your hen house? You're gonna have a hen house?
Yes, so if this gets approved, then the chickens will have their own coop and a bigger coop. Right now, they're in a little A-frame, just to stay warm for the winter and so.
Is there A-frame on that property?
No, the coop is a little A-frame.
Oh.
It's, yeah,
That's over by the,
it's right by the pigs, yeah.
okay. And ducks, you don't have any ducks up there yet?
There's 3 pigs and 2 ducks. Or, I'm sorry, 3 chickens and 2 ducks.
All right, we have any other questions?
No, I don't have one.
Well, I'd like to make sure that, they're not gonna exceed over 20, but then they,
Well, if you make a motion to approve, then you state in the motion that they can have only X amount of pigs,
This one would
or
be-
chickens, or whatever, you know. Their request is for no more than 6 pigs, no more than 20 chickens and ducks combined. So they could have 10 of each, or they could have 15 and 5, or whatever.
The portion for keeping animals would be a recommendation to the town council.
So the whole thing is a recommendation then, correct?
Just this first portion, the.
The
use
first
var-
portion is a recommendation to the council?
The variance of use to allow for the maintenance of ducks, chickens, and pigs in the R2 zoning district on the land of 6.18 acres.
Yeah.
That portion would be a recommendation to the town council.
Well, if there's no other questions, then,
Mr. President,
I need a motion.
Nathan, do
Yes.
you have a list of the conditions that you would propose be contained in a use
Yes,
commitment?
yes.
You need to hear this before you make your motion, folks.
All right, no more than 6 pigs, no more than 20 ducks, chickens, pigs, what do we want to say, September 1 through April 1, that works. The pig enclosure shall not be located within 200 and, let's say, 25 feet from any other residential home. And I believe, Mr. Austin, that is what I had notated as we were going through. Was there one that I missed?
Well, can you add that this use will be limited to these folks?
Yep. Use is limited to existing owners and shall not run with the land.
Thank you.
What was the end date you said on the keeping of the pigs, and I missed starting that part down?
Yes, Ms. Abernathy, it was September 1 to April 1 of each year.
Thank you.
that 6 pig, is that counting the pot belly too?
Yes, it is.
How many advertisements were sent out for this, Ashley, do you know?
One giant advertisement.
One?
one giant one. It covered both the variance of use and the developmental variance. That's gonna be their second.
And the only correspondence was one positive and one negative.
And actually, I should note, because the first portion went so long, the gentleman that owns property right to the bottom on page 3 was here to speak in support, but he had to leave. So, the gentleman that was speaking to Lindsay.
Well, unfortunately, we didn't hear him, so.
Right, I get
What
it.
it is. What's the ducks for? Do you eat them?
Their eggs are really good for cooking.
Oh,
For bakery and such, for
Okay.
sure fat.
I don't go to farm guys and get it. I don't know what duck,
I'll bring you.
where do I go? So.
You're gonna have a garden there?
Gleaning, Mr.
Give variance for
Capiero.
this.
Gleaning is allowed.
Okay, if we got all that information, then, you need a, motion, or either, motion sent to the town council, either approval or denial.
I got a question. What is the least amount of pigs you can get by on?
Sounds like 4. Pot belly and 40,
And then the floor.
You definitely need 4.
Yes.
I guess 6 is in case they have a baby. They won't have to kill it right away.
Wilbur.
So looking for a motion.
I make the motion that we approve it, with stipulation, no more than 20 chickens or ducks, no more than 6 pigs.
Pigs to be raised from September 1st to April 1st.
Yes.
The corralling, for lack of a better term, penning up of the animals, chickens, ducks, and pigs will be no closer than 250 feet from the nearest neighbor. What I missed?
225.
225.
This petitioner only,
Pardon?
the use variance for this petitioner only.
We'll only stay with her.
Oh, yeah, and this variance would only stay with the present owner,
With petitioner, that's.
and will not move on if they sell the property.
Well, and there'll be a use commitment also that Nathan has indicated he'll provide. That'll be a recordable instrument that runs with this parcel.
Accurate.
And this is a recommendation, right, to the town council?
Right,
That we're ruling on, correct?
right.
Use variance.
So you're saying send a favorable
Yes.
with finding the facts?
Yes.
Any questions on that motion? Roll call, please.
You needed a second.
Oops,
I'll second it.
second by Mr. Burnham. Now I need a roll call.
Mr. Burnham?
Yes.
Mr. Hunley?
Yes.
Mr. Jackson?
Yes.
Mr. Capuro?
No. Motion carries 3-1.
You can roll right into the second.
Yeah, let me read,
Go ahead, sorry.
that's all right. The other part of this is developmental variances to allow the petitioner to construct a barn-dominium house with metal siding and the use of a metal Comex storage box on the property prior to the construction of the house and to continue the use of the storage box as an accessory structure on the lot.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The second variance that we are seeking, I think it's 2 aspects. There's a little bit of looseness in the code that can probably be creatively adapted moving forward, but the proposed residential structure that we put on this property is a barn dominium, and on pages 7 through 9, I've submitted what the proposed drawings are that this would look like. Unfortunately, we don't have them in color, but it would be a white, black, and green variety of colors on the outside, I'm told. Is that accurate? Yep, black and green. And then the house would be comprised of one portion with a second-story interior as well as a larger garage on the inside. And the reason why this hits your particular code is the basic structure of the property would be wooden beams or wooden posts. generally, that is prohibited for structures. However, in meetings with Ms. Abernathy, as well as in speaking with other folks within the town, the big concern there is the foundation that you get for these post structures. And what we've already submitted to Ms. Abernathy is a proposal that the foundation of the property would meet state code, meaning there would be actual footers going down. It wouldn't just be the post sunk in the ground, there would be actual footers sunk in the ground all the way around, in addition to those posts being sunk in there, so it would meet the residential code for that. But because it's wooden posts with 2x6s in between, we didn't have wooden posts, we would need it, but there is 2x6 framing in between that would shore up the remainder of the supports between it. The other, I think, concern that Ashley and I bantered about a bit, I would respectfully probably disagree with her on. There is a metal exterior. From what I can take a look at, looking at the codes, I don't believe that that's prohibited. It is a metal building, but it's not a metal building, so to speak, that's got metal sides that are supporting it. It's just a fascia, similar to what you might have with an aluminum siding, but it would have an aluminum siding for a barn-dominium feel. And then the third aspect to this particular use variance is, right now on site, we've got one of those sea cargo, what are they called, containers? And it's holding belongings right now, but what we'd like to do when we're all done is recycle that particular sea container and actually side it, put a roof on it so that we can turn it into an exterior shed. And currently, the way that the code is crafted, that's frowned upon. Candidly, I've had lots of clients within Lake County that have built 1,000 to 2,500 square structures using these sea containers. Very solid, they make great buildings. So what we'd be requesting as well is that we could have that used as the metal frame for the building. Doors would be cut out, etc. Siding would be framed around it to match the barn dominium, and then a roof would be put on. So those are, in essence, I think, the three developmental variances that we are requesting from you.
Okay, can I have a seat and I'll ask for the administrators, please? Are there any administrators for the barn dominium? Come on up, state your name and address, please.
Nick Schinkel at 6506 West 141st Street, Cedar Lake. Vote yes.
Okay, thank you. Ashley, you want to finish that letter?
Yep, once again from Nick and Amy Burcham at 6614 West 142nd Place in Cedar Lake. Stated the construction of the metal and/or post building should not be permitted in this residential zoning district. It will devalue the nearby properties. It will not appeal to incoming residents who are looking to buy or build in this area. Thank you for reading our concerns. As Cedar Lake residents since 2006, we appreciate the town of Cedar Lake Board and the work you do to maintain and enhance your town.
Is anybody online?
We do have a new participant online. Sir, if you would like to participate in the remonstrance period for this item for the developmental variance, please raise your hand.
Any other administrators? Seeing none, public comment is closed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have nothing really further to add, other than, and again, I can bring statistics, but I think just in talking with Steve Magro, others at county, the amount of applications that they're seeing for barn dominiums significantly increasing. Speaking with real estate agents, these things hold their value very well. They're constructed solidly, and again, this is a particular piece of parcel away from the lake, secluded, where it fits its surroundings, so would request that these be granted.
Are there support beams on the barn dominium? Are they wood or are they gonna be metal?
Wood, meaning the side
The support beams?
support beams are wood,
Right,
correct?
are wood.
Yes.
And they're gonna be, how are they gonna be fastened to the concrete? Bolts and J-bolts and plates and what have you?
That is correct.
She's shaking her head no.
They're sunk into the
Into-
ground about 4 foot, and then there's a casting that goes around them to keep them from like rotting away or anything from getting on them. But they are also in the ground just like the
So how's that, that's gonna sit on a footing?
Correct, and we've submitted, and I thought I had submitted, I apologize if I didn't, but we submitted kind of a 3D view of how that's going to be sunken in.
So the footing's gotta be deeper than 4 foot.
Yeah, below the frost line, correct, yep,
Well, no, because her post is going down 4 foot, and that post is sitting on a footing.
right.
How deep is the footing usually, Eric?
42 inches.
Yeah.
42 inches?
For the footings, footing in, say, in our county, it's 8 inches, so there's 16 by, the footing on an 8-inch wall is like 16 by 8. And then you have 42 inches of wall that sits on top of the footing.
And we submitted the proposal.
I mean, it goes for structure-wise, and you're gonna have to build to the codes of the building department, so that's fine, I mean, that's gonna be, my concern is that metal. I mean, I haven't on this board approved any structure having outside metal for the exterior walls. Not a single one. We had a gentleman come in here that wanted a garage, and we made him, that poor guy had to redesign his whole garage. You know, I know you're allowed to have a steel roof, and you'll be able to have a roof over the awning. I don't have a problem, I can say, I don't have a problem with the house, but the structure of the outside being all metal, I have a problem with that.
Well, we have approved, some pole barns.
But that barn, that garage, for instance, that's right on the lake, that he came with an all-steel structure.
Yeah.
And then we shot that completely down. He had to build a siding.
Yeah.
That's what, I'm just based on based on what I voted before.
Sure.
Well-
And I know exactly which one you're talking about, but
I mean, the way the house is built, that's fine, that's gonna be on the building department and the foundation, that's all in there. I'm just saying on the exterior of that building, I don't have any resident house that has steel outside walls.
So the reality is we take a look at the residential code, it says metal and/or post buildings. Metal and post building types of construction shall not be permitted in this residential zoning district as a primary or accessory use. And there's a however, any accessory building greater than 1,000 square feet in size shall be exempt from this provision. So in reality, the way the existing code is they could put up a one-bedroom, small little unit there, and then throw up out back 1,000 square foot accessory structure. So, and I think the difficulty with the code is what's a quote metal building? Is that the structure of it, or is that the frame of it? Because candidly, if we're gonna say you can't have a metal exterior, then anytime somebody puts.
Do we have any all metal buildings in the town of Cedar Lake?
I would say any aluminum structure should be prohibited then, if that's how we're going to interpret it, would be my concern.
we have pole barns in the town of Cedar Lake.
That are all metal?
Yes, the pole barns.
So this isn't a pole barn, this is a residential structure.
Right, but to answer your question, yes, we do. As an accessory building.
As an accessory building, not a primary home.
No, the house was built, actually, he built the pole barn first, so he could stockpile his material that and built the house. And this has just been a few years ago that was done. But we do not have any.
So there's been a pole barn that is construction, a residential house?
No.
No. Now, the roof and over your porch, that I can see.
What are the other options on the siding?
I guess there really isn't any other options. The feel is to be like a barn feel. So wood is just not an option just because of the heavy intensive nature of taking care of it. The only reason that those work for general barns in the past is because you're not insulated and it allows air to freely go through. That's what preserves it over time. And that's kind of the feel that my clients are looking for, is that barn dominium feel that fits this particular type of structure. And it's got a great exterior look to it, as well as there's going to be great colors on it. You've also got wooden posts on the exterior, which give it that dressed up feel that you can see from page 7, that you're going to see facing, if you were to drive by, as it's hidden tucked back in the trees.
Yeah, I've seen the pictures submitted, and I did the research on barn dominiums before I came here, so I do know a little bit, although it's not enough, but a little bit.
Sure.
You could always frame out.
You can make them.
You put 2x4s or 2x6s, probably 2x6s between the posts, because the posts are gonna be 6x.
Yep.
Right, so probably 2x6s. So you could always frame out the outside like you do any home and put, some kind of board or insulation or what have it, and then you can go with,
Shouldn't have that.
sort of, vinyl siding, and you put it, instead of horizontally, you put it vertically.
Well, that brick and batten style gives you that same look, it's just wood, it's got the wood panels with the raised slats on it, and it looks a lot like the metal.
Kind of the barn, what do they call that, the new style of
It's called brick and batten, B-A-T-T-E-N, and it kinda gives you that same, you're gonna get that same look, it's just gonna be a wood product and not a metal product.
Yeah, it's just
Probably a little more expensive.
more expensive and more maintenance over time is the difficulty.
Yeah.
You have to change the whole frame.
The whole framing has to be changed if you're gonna go to that sort of structure? Okay. Okay, I guess, do you wanna speak a little bit as to why you guys picked?
do I have to say my name?
No, you're good, we know who you are.
So for the building itself, the exterior of these buildings and how these buildings are built with the metal siding. It's kind of a package deal, it's not a matter of like, we can change something and put different siding on it or anything like that. To do a different siding, to do the board and batten, the sizes of it are different than the steel panels. So they would have to actually go in and frame the whole entire thing, along with put a different type of backing on it, throughout the whole exterior of the house to be able to use anything different than the panels of the steel siding.
I would assume it's a less way of building a house. It's less expensive, and that's the route that you're going.
For, as far as,
This
the
permit.
siding, yes. It's less expensive than normal siding, traditional siding. We do have to put 2x6s inside to frame it out, to make sure that we have the correct insulation in there, so it meets that code. So is it cheaper? I don't know, I don't know the balance of that, but I do know that essentially it may require a little bit more.
Well, the two by
but not
six
as
could be
much.
just the reason why it's made that way. That could be structure and strength of it. I mean, they frame 2x4 houses all day long. They put an R13 through for insulation, and it meets up to code. It's backed by drywall. So, I mean, that's fine, man. Just the reason why you're building the structure is because it's less expensive to build the other structure.
Than the house, yes. So essentially, the structure is set on those posts and not on the rest of the framing for the house. So all of the other framing that gets put in is then not weight bearing. The only thing bearing weight are the posts when the barn is built.
The building department has significant concern about that. When we looked at it, and it looked as though it was just a regular, standard, traditional housing foundation plan. But then another plan that you shows it actually being built as though it is a post-frame building. That's not allowed in Indiana residential building code. The building department says if this is allowed, it has to be built to 2020 Indiana Building Residential Code.
Right.
They don't think with it being post, it's gonna meet that code.
We did have an engineer, go over it, he is willing to stamp it if you need something like that, if you would
We
like
can't,
something like that.
we
Because
as
there
a,
is a code that it does follow.
but we as a town cannot say, yeah, you can go ahead and not follow the Indiana code, that's state, that's not us, we can't tell you yes.
I'm a little confused because respectfully, we sat down and met, and there was agreement.
Right, this page
Right.
shows it as a post.
Right.
When Tony looked at it initially that one day, he saw this as a foundation plan. This foundation plan doesn't show the post.
Right, this is to show the design, but that's why we also submitted with the application, the foundation portion.
Right, and this is what Tony and I were looking at the day we met. Then when we were going over this at the building department level, after that, Tony said, this part, not code.
Again, that's gonna go down to your permit and go to building. We're not, I mean,
Correct.
that's not what we're getting at. It's
Right.
the structure itself being made out of metal. We don't have a residential house that is sided in metal. That's the catch.
Correct.
We have a pole barn, fine, but we do not have a residential house in the community that is sided with metal.
There's a large hole dug over there on the property too. Is that where the house is going, or?
That's where the old house was.
Oh, the one
That's
the one you tore out?
Yeah.
Okay, and you got
So
a
when the
back,
previous owners tore everything down, that's the hole that's left.
okay, and you got a back hole there too. Is that Do you own that backhoe, or you?
Yes, we own that, that was something we used, because we took some
So that would be,
trees down and some
that would be
shrubs.
stored in the barn.
No, that's
No?
not staying one. So, no,
So you're gonna have a separate garage or barn or something?
that's going back to my father-in-law.
Alright, so it's it's your it's not yours, it's your
That's going back to
father-in-law, so
Mary.
you're using it for the construction.
Correct, yes.
Yeah, I mean, that's fine too.
I guess respectfully, Mr. Chairman, the one concern that I have with where this is going is I can see everyone disagrees potentially on the aesthetics of what a building looks like. I represent plenty of homeowner associations and people agree to disagree on what it looks like. But to say that our code restricts from allowing a metal exterior, I have a significant concern about, because that would mean that if anyone else comes through and wants to put on an aluminum siding or aluminum plates that are, becoming, more of prevalent use, then we have to say to them, you can't build that house with aluminum siding either, because it's a metal exterior. And then instead, we're gonna go towards thin vinyl. So, I guess there's a significant question that I have as to whether or not even the code prohibits a metal fascia on the exterior of residential buildings. That's my concern as well. Notwithstanding that, I think the proposed metal exterior is a good fit for the design, the proposed area where it sits. If it was in the middle of a residential neighborhood, perhaps no, it doesn't fit. But set off from the road where it's gonna be hidden, barndominium feel, I think it meets the look and the design that a lot of barndominiums have nowadays.
How far off the road is it gonna be? Where that hole was?
Where the old home was, yeah, so eventually, once all of that gets.
So it's not that far off the road.
Well hidden.
Yeah.
And where were you gonna put the metal container? The shipping container?
Essentially, it will just be a shed, so once everything is built, that will probably be off back more towards the animals.
And what are the shed requirements? Anything bigger than a certain size has to have a footing walls. That's what, 12 by what?
242 to 736, I'm trying to remember the number in my head. It was in the 700s requires just a monolithic pour, anything over that then requires a full foundation.
700?
Yeah, it's far below.
Yeah.
And a stake, probably 10 foot wide by,
Wait a minute, no, size wise, it's 12, anything bigger than what, a 12 by 12?
700 square feet.
No, I don't think I think it's smaller than that, because, 20 by 20 is 400 square feet.
200.
That's a garage, you have to have a footing wall.
Anything-
It's not
Anything
not that
over
much square
200
footage.
square feet
It's
requires, anything over 200 square feet requires a monolithic pour. So when we get into the 700s, then it goes from a monolithic
So
pour
that's
to
a,
a
that's
full
a 10 by
foundation.
20? Because a shed that's 8 by, 16, I think has to have a footing wall. So,
When I spoke with Tony the other day, the inspector, he said that, one of them is fine, because we talked about possibly putting two together to make it look like a bigger shed, to make it look more aesthetic and kind of fit with the barn a little bit better. And he said that there could actually be two of them put together, which would make it 16 by 20, and it was still under the amount of square feet for a foundation.
The previous house was about 61.69 feet from the road.
How many feet, Ashley?
61.69.
Yep. Yeah, I appreciate in closing, Mr. Chairman, that this is something, quote, new for Cedar Lake. As you drive through the area, you're seeing more and more of these pop up. I guess I'm used to seeing them because I'm part of a couple of Facebook pages, because I kind of like them, and I'm always looking for a possible design for my shed and back I'm gonna build.
So you want a box?
Well, I'm not saying a box, but different designs.
The information I read on those storage boxes, those shipping containers, is that, like, they're only good for 30 years, and then, you start having problems with the walls and what have you, So it's information I got off the internet.
Okay.
So, I don't believe it, but,
There's a lot of stuff out there.
yeah, there's a lot of good information on the internet, but
Hey, metal can
that's
rust.
not one of them.
Wood can decompose, it's all gonna fail someday.
Maximum size shed of 12 by 20.
Well, I don't see any problem with the box, the shipping container, if they're gonna move it back to the back part of the property, where it's not really visible from the road, and they're gonna frame it out and put a roof on it. You know, I would assume just a gable roof.
Correct.
You know, I don't see any problem with that. As long as the, foundation is correct, you know, if they need a foundation.
Right, again, that would be determined when they pull
that,
permit for it.
I just got a hard time wrapping my mind around a barn dominium. You know, and,
Some people find it difficult for a condo, some people find it difficult for an apartment.
I don't have a problem with it being condominium, I have a problem with it being the way it's built.
But being what?
I don't have a problem with them building, they can build whatever they wanna live in, that I don't have a problem with, and the lot is, it's how it's being, what it's made out of being built. I don't wanna set a precedence of where we're gonna allow, you know, steel structure forms like that. Now, and this is requiring, he's using the definition of that siding being made, I guess that will have to be on the legals, I guess, but I just don't think, we don't have any residential house that has that siding.
Condominiums are becoming a lot more common out in.
Absolutely, you see it in rural
areas.
areas, you go out to Michigan, I mean, that's all you're seeing being built, and I see why the advantage of it, especially with the property they have. I'm not making that argument at all, I'm just saying this, the presence of what it's being made out of. Or siding, not what, just what the siding is.
what's the gauge of that siding?
You told me, 28.
28?
I mean, it's thick.
Substantial.
No,
Absolutely.
it's 10.
Absolutely, yeah.
28 is 10.
Then, oh, yeah?
Go down for sticker.
Yeah, but comparisons to aluminum siding, what's
Yeah, right. It gets the strength from the bins, how they form it.
Yeah.
Yeah. 28 gauge, you can probably bend in your vise. 20 gauge, you're not. 22 gauge, you're not.
I think, Mr. Chairman, I said in conclusion before, but I had submitted the answers to the 3 questions that need to be answered to approve a developmental variance. And I think the facts that I've outlined there, the proposal meets each of those areas. So even though there might be some aesthetic concerns that we might have personally, my encouragement would be that that doesn't stop us from allowing this newer style that's emerging here. Thank you.
Well, any more discussion?
Yeah, I'm kinda with Eric on that metal stuff, yeah, I'm afraid once we start it, that metal sheeting.
I don't really have a problem with the metal siding and that, it's on it, but I do have a problem with setting precedents for future, constructions of this type of building in the town. And like I say, we're trying to keep it a resort, atmosphere. Even if you are 3 miles away from the lake, it's still a resort town. Everybody can't be fortunate enough to live on the lake, or want to. But, yeah, I just don't know about putting a new type of building into the mix when they come in to build something.
And I respect if that's the direction that we're going to go, then for anyone that's going to build here in town, page 14, paragraph 10 needs to be clarified as to, are we now getting into the business of restricting the aesthetic of the exterior product that we're working with? That's my concern of now what we're dealing with.
We're not restricting the aesthetics. What I'm questioning, or what I think Eric and Ray had a question, is the strength of the material more so than the looks. Am I right, or?
I think both set precedents, I think having all that steel on the outside of the house.
So hypothetically speaking, my client wouldn't be able to use like a metal siding then, according to the way that we're interpreting. I'm just trying to get some clarity here, both myself, my client, and any future clients if we encounter this section.
What kind of siding do these double whites have?
Vinyl.
Vinyl?
In most houses that are being constructed are vinyl siding. Wood, I know, are a little more expensive, obviously.
Common in most of our PUD for their architectural control standards are vinyl, wood, or hardy board siding.
I just had a client that built in Munster, and he used, the new thing is aluminum plates. You know, it's a very beautiful exterior, much more expensive than brick, any of the other products that are out there. So I think we need to be cognizant of all the new aesthetic exteriors that are coming.
If you put vinyl siding or hardy board on, you have to put surround it with the backer board, and usually what they're using these days is that green board, I don't know what they call it, but but they have to nail up the green board, and then that gives it a lot of rigidity, especially in the corners and that, with that, and then you would nail up your either vinyl siding or your hardy board. And hardy board is a concrete type of siding, which is more expensive than vinyl.
What if my client were to put 5 feet of brick or stone on the bottom of this facing the area sides facing the street? Will that assist with creating the aesthetic of what you may be looking for, complemented by the metal siding?
Well, again, I mean, Ethan, that goes on, it's more of a look, I mean, it's not code. I mean, in my subdivision that I live in, yes, it has a percentage of the front of the house has to have a brick. I mean, we're not in a subdivision, we're in an area where we're gonna have chickens out there, and I get it, and I'm not proud, I have no problem with the house being built, attractive. I just have the exterior of it. I don't wanna set a presence where I'm gonna be going into a subdivision and seeing an all-steel siding. I don't want to start that precedence.
And I'm just grappling with where in your code does it give this board the ability to restrict it, is what I'm grappling with.
I guess I'll have to ask our attorney on that.
Well, you read it to us,
You'd have the
it
right
said
to
accessory
impose-
building.
I'm sorry.
You'd have the right to impose reasonable conditions upon any petition before you.
So the right to.
You have a right to include reasonable conditions.
So then, does this board have the right to give them, to ask not to do that when we have presence of no other residential family home with that siding?
Yes.
Yes?
No. That answers it. Well, I think what that tells me is that the code doesn't prohibit metal siding, but the sheer fact that we're here, because it's a post building, that allows you to place additional restrictions on this petition.
You read the ordinance to us, and it stated that your residence or the main building cannot have metal siding on it, only an accessory building. And your comment was, we'll throw up a one-bedroom house in wood and then put up this barnuminium as the accessory building.
No.
So, yes, you said that. Read it back.
No.
Don't get me.
I didn't say the accessory building would be the barndominium. I said this is.
No, but you said we could put up a metal building as the accessory building and meet the ordinance by building a one-bedroom house.
I don't know if a one-bedroom house would provide a minimum square foot of a single story is 1,500 square feet.
I know, but that's not the point I'm trying to make.
No, and I'm not getting obtuse here, but my point is when we say a metal building, what constitutes a metal building? And I think what I heard your attorney seem to indicate, I mean, when I say a metal building, I'm thinking the frame of it is metal, right? It doesn't talk about, this code doesn't talk about the exterior, it talks about a metal building, meaning what is it constructed out of? That's what it's talking about.
To me, a metal building is metal.
Okay.
If you're gonna use framing, it would be stated as a metal framed building.
Mm-hmm.
meaning the 2x4s or what have you in there is metal, aluminum. Okay, but to me, a metal building is metal.
Okay, and I raise it because I'm here to advocate for my client. I have a concern as to the way that this is. And I've also pointed out that, like I talked about, and I don't want to belabor the point, but if you have metal siding, then we need to be consistent with those folks as well. Or if my client would come back and say, have a metal siding overlap, would that then be prohibited? That's my concern. I'm trying to get clarity here.
Most common definitions of a barn dominium do consider them a metal structure with an open floor plan. And that's just a quick Google search. So if that's what a barn dominium is most typically defined as, that would then make it a metal building.
That's not what we submitted though, it's a post wooden frame. So we're getting caught up in that. I guess at the end of the day, what your attorney has advised you, and he's right, you have the ability to impose conditions. So if you're telling me and my client that we're not amenable, you're not amenable as part of this use condition to allowing metal exteriors, then let us know that. And if you want to deny that portion, you certainly have the right to vote whichever you want. In conjunction with that, we would request that you would approve the other building that's part of the same petition.
Comments on that?
So on that separate building, that outbuilding container boxes, so if you get granted that, is there a timeline you have to resurface that and make that look like a normal building once we grant that, right? Is that the same thing as pulling a permit in a year?
You could, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Ashton, but you could set a time limit on how long it could stay like that after the house is completed.
They stated that they would, move the container and close it once the house was completed.
Correct.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Dave.
Yeah.
It's okay, it sounded good.
Okay, thanks. So that, I mean, you can, any motions, you can put that in there, that they have, 3 months or something after the house is completed to move the shipping container and get it enclosed.
Right.
So I don't see that as a problem, but, the problem we have here right now is, are we going to allow metal siding or not? I need somebody to respond to Mr. This on this. I mean, he was willing, he suggested that his client would be, seemed to be willing to, put up, maybe 3 or 4 foot of, brick around the perimeter, the lower half of the building.
On the face of the building.
Just on the face, or?
The face
Is that what he's talking?
Just the face, the part that faces the road. I mean, cosmetically it would look better, but the again, we're still back at that, steel structure on the outside. We don't have a residential house that is that criteria. I don't have a problem with the way that what they want to build. I don't have a problem with that at all.
Okay, so now,
my concern is that I don't want to be the one to set a precedence where they can have, steel on the outside, and then we'll get on a primary residential home.
Mr. Chairman?
yes.
Perhaps at the risk of closing the debate, a motion being made to do something would bring this to a conclusion and give the answer to Attorney Biss that he has asked for.
Well, okay, and what I was just going to say is, does your client have other ideas of how to clad this building? Would she want to take a deferral till next month and then discuss it with powers to be on her side to see if they can come up with something different than the siding?
My client indicated that if it can't be as proposed, then they can't really build it. They'll have to go back to the drawing board for something else.
Nathan, it's all or nothing?
Oh, give me a second.
Yeah.
I guess, Mr. Chairman, if I could, is there any suggestions, and I did this with Briar Ridge last year with a client, are there any suggestions that this board has that if we were to come back, you could say, we'd be more amenable to it, such as incorporating some aesthetics, some natural aesthetics or something like that into the design that might make you then consider it favorably. That way we can come back with a better design proposal for you, because I appreciate your concern that we don't want to set a bad precedent, right? So I think there's two things perhaps that we can do. One is you tell me what would make this more of an aesthetic appeal and reduce the concern over metal. And in the same breath, I think we need to recognize that the existing code has some concerns here that need to be clarified. So when you talk about not wanting to set a bad precedent, well, A, bad law makes bad precedent, but we can also clarify the law to avoid that, to protect you as well moving forward. So I'll leave that to town folks, but if we were to defer and come back, you have some suggestions that we incorporate into design that might say, hey, this fits more of what we'd be willing to allow.
So the first motion was for the animals, which is done. The second motion is on this barnuminium, so I suggested they come up with something that for cosmetics that's not metal on the outside. The interior is all made out of metal, the actual exterior of the building have a design for that, other than metal. Maybe come back and see, not brick around the whole thing, but if you could do something to make that front appealing.
If any portion of it, Mr. Burnham, is metal, would you be adamantly opposed to it?
Well, then we also have to determine the definition of your metal. I comprehend it, like I said, I have no problem with the barnuminium. I think it's a great design, and it's ideal for where you're at. I get it. It's just the structure of itself. I don't want to have the presence of having that throughout the town limits.
And I don't know about a little brick on the front's gonna override the other two sides. I mean, that's gonna be an argument for somebody else down the road.
Well, I mean, presidents and like, for instance, subdivisions, they do brick just on the face of the house.
Right.
It's not all four sides. It's to keep the price of the house down. I get it. But visually, it will look.
If we're on three sides, Mr. Jackson, would that be more appealing?
If the brick was?
Yeah. Or stone?
I really can't, I'd have to see like a concept of it, just kind of throwing it out there. I'm not comfortable doing that.
Okay. And I would ask that whoever, who's gonna build this, just to confirm, see if you can use material grade on the outside. I mean, like I said, the house that you wanna build, I have no problem with it, none.
Even the board and batten that you talked about, for the post-frame buildings is metal. So like an option of that, it is a great option, it looks really pretty, I actually loved it, that's what I wanted to begin with, but that is metal as well as the regular like barn siding for the post-frame buildings.
So that same construction package would be a metal board and batten.
Yes.
But I was talking, I'm talking about the actual wood product that you can put on that, but I don't know the surface of this building, it'd have to be sheeted.
Right.
So, that's probably where the problem's coming from, it'd have to be 100% sheeted, and then you could put whatever product you wanted on there minus the metal.
I guess the question would be, does this building have to be built that way with an exterior sheeting? Or can it have another option of exterior finish? Does it have to be?
The barn companies themselves do not do that. We would have to hire somebody else, we would have to talk to somebody else about that, because it would not be included in their package, because it's not something that they do when they build the building.
So why don't we do this? We've heard a couple of ideas. We'll talk to the barn folks. Perhaps they can be malleable. We're certainly not the first municipality I'm sure that they've run into. This is some new ideas. So why don't we come back and we'll have perhaps some samples that the board can see. Again, staff has heard your concerns of setting a bad precedent, so perhaps we got to reevaluate there on that front. And perhaps there's a happy medium that we can come to here with this style of design. I'm good with, if we can defer, Mr. President, till next month, we'll continue the conversation.
So defer just the second phase of this?
Correct.
Right.
And you don't need us to make a motion for the sheds. Obviously, the shed's gonna be built after the house anyways.
It's gonna be based on the house, right?
Yeah, the shed will fall into.
So we'll just do all at once?
With the house, yeah.
Is that correct?
The first part is gonna send to the town council as favorable.
Correct.
This year will be deferred, and they'll kick it around and see if they can come up with something. I would like a colored picture of what it would look like, you know, regardless of what, if you're gonna put brick on the bottom, or whatever you're gonna do for us. In the meantime, we can do a little, I guess, soul searching or what have you, to see what, you know,
Good.
what is in the area, because we're not always right.
Are we allowed to request information on what's being built? Or am I entitled to that, to see?
You are.
Like, to see, like, you know, she's using a certain builder to build this, or manufactured, can I request that manufactured for just more education on it?
Whatever information they can provide you will be supplemental to their petition, so.
Okay.
I think you could.
We'll put together a packet to help the board out in the next 2 weeks. Absolutely.
Appreciate that.
Yep.
Okay, I need a motion to defer this till the, February, what's the meeting?
8th?
Yes.
I'll make a motion to defer this to February 8th meeting.
I'll second it.
Motion by Mr. Burnham, seconded by Mr. Jackson. Roll call, please.
Mr. Burnham?
Yes.
Mr. Hunley?
Yes.
Mr. Jackson?
Yes.
Mr. Caparo?
Yes, motion carries.
Thanks,
Thank
all.
you.
Appreciate it.
Okay, public comment. Any public comment? Public comment? Yes, you would.
I just wanted to say, I just wanted to ask if you skipped the Lake Storage without following the agenda.
That name and address.
Angeline Michaelacek, 12806 Lee Court.
Okay.
I was just wanting to ask, on the agenda, there was another item that was skipped over, and I didn't know if that was intentional.
Oh, the deferred one.
They requested a withdrawal.
Yeah, they withdraw it.
The Cedar Lake Storage?
Yes.
Okay, that was it, thank you.
Yeah. Any other public comment? Public comment is closed. Commissioner, got anything? Oh, I got something I would like to find out. Can we move this from 6:30 to 6? We had 6:30 before because, Mr. Parker had a conflict sometimes with his work. And, everybody seems to be starting at 6, so any objections to the board members?
I just trying to favor for you, David. I mean,
No, I'm good.
would you be okay to do 6? I can do 6, Mr. President. I just didn't know, like, with, you know, time frame. That was,
Right.
I'm just being
This
consideration for
did
you.
have to do with, I think, it was Greg Parker's schedule, or somebody's schedule.
I do remember it being at
That was
6
great,
at
yeah.
one time.
It was at 6 for a
And then
long
we
time.
had to switch for something. I do recall, I personally have no problem. If you want me to make a motion for that, or?
No, I think the town council has to approve it, right?
Well, you need to, let them know. So if you take a motion, John, it'll go to them.
So
Okay.
I'll make a motion then to move our startup time for our meeting to be 6 o'clock.
Motion made by Mr. Burnham for a 6 o'clock start,
Second it?
second by Mr. Jackson. Roll call, please.
Mr. Burnham?
Yes.
Mr. Hunley?
Yes.
Mr. Jackson?
Yes.
Mr. Caparo?
Yes, motion carries.
That probably helps.
Ashley, can you get this?
Those summer meetings go long anyhow, man,
I
so.
will check with
We'll be-
the
it'll take
town
a half
manager
hour
and
on
town council president.
Consent agenda would be a great place.
And we've been here to 11 o'clock before in the summer, man, so.
Midnight.
Do you want me to make a motion to close?
Adjourn. No.